very much indeed, Simone, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome tonight. This is a special, as John Carmody, who's a guest here tonight, said, we cope with Treasurer Morris, and I suppose you can cope with Mary Shanahan. I was on the radio this week and had to interview the Treasurer, and she's promised, ladies and gentlemen, you'll be pleased to know, it did amuse me before we started, I promise seriously to be honest in my answers. Planned for her to be eating up for that. Never mind. With that little promise, I thought we'd continue, and I was absolutely thrilled to be here. Honoured, in fact. I mean, some people cross the path, a lot of people cross my path, I'm very lucky. But some people cross your path and you just know they're special. You don't even know a lot about them. You just know, you know they're special. You can see the curiosity, which is what I prize so much in people. You can see the compassion, the generosity of spirit, the intelligence. And I saw all of that without even knowing much about Mary. I'm a Mercy girl myself, and I know there are some Mercies here tonight, I'm very proud to say. And so it wasn't as if I was, fully briefed, but I just thought, this is a special woman. And I met her at one of our spiritualities in the pubs, and our paths crossed semi-regularly, and I felt this marvellous, easy connection. And I discovered a lot when I was preparing for this Q&A with her, so I shall try to convey it in the next 15, 20 minutes or so, just to encourage you to all open up your purses just a little bit more. I mean, you may all know a lot more, but I'm going to try to tease out some of the elements of Mary, just to make this whole woman who I think we all respect. And I was thinking about you that I think in a way your essential character, your leadership, your teaching is at the heart of you. And I was looking at some material the other day, and that Man for All Seasons that Robert Bolt wrote had the Thomas More character say to Richard Rich, who sort of lost his soul, shall we say, who actually confessed to Thomas More that he really wanted to be a teacher. And the character says, but who'd know if I did anything great or good? And the Thomas More character in Robert Bolt's script says, well, I'd know, you'd know, and God would know. That's not a bad audience. Motivated you. There's a sort of a self-containment, I think, in you about what you seek to achieve and what you have achieved. Are you conscious of that?
Well,
I think it's
I think I've been blessed in having people tell me what I do. I'm not aware of anything. I think what motivates me more than anything is what was said in one of our chapters in which I have taken board. It said, our lives given in love are the strongest expression of our spirituality. And I think I can honestly say that that's what motivates me. The love, that's what I'm on about. Our whole charism is to discover and reveal the love of the heart of Jesus. And that's what I want to do. But I think my passion, I've loved teaching. I didn't teach for very many years as such formally, but I mean our whole work of education is in a sense coming. But one thing that I'm passionate about is trying to help people to develop their understanding of their faith so that they don't, as adults, live with the faith of children. Mm. So I think that's...
And when did you work that out?
Well, I suppose the more I knew adult people and listened to them, or the more I read about people, that they were talking about their faith, an understanding of faith that existed many years back. They just had not grown. And I remember when I interviewed students, I used to put my two fingers like this. I used to say at the end of the first year, when you come to university, your understanding of yourself and your faith is more or less on a par. After first year, you've grown in your understanding of yourself and what's happening. By the end of the third year, you're up here and your understanding of faith is still down here. So you look at questions and you think, well, what's my faith saying? And then you say, not relevant. Has nothing to say to me, which I think is a tragedy.
So the scholarship, therefore, it must be a thrill to you.
It is indeed, because I value Sancta Sophia very highly. I loved my time here, though as many in this room will tell you, we had our moments. But I love dealing with young
people. A bit excessive over there. Yeah, moving right along.
I love dealing with people in this age group from 18 on, because they're starting a new stage of life, and I just love being part of that.
So you were involved, as I understand it, in drawing up the conditions for the criteria for the scholarship.
Yeah.
Just tease that out again for us, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, I used to say, if I used the word balance, probably many people in this room would laugh, because I'm very strong on people getting a balance in their life between their social life, their studies, and what I termed their spiritual life, which was developing an understanding of themselves and how they relate to life and to other people, etc. And I still think that's one of the criteria. And I mean, when you're choosing people at that stage, they won't have that developed. But we have to see that they have the potential to develop that. And also, very importantly, it has to be a scholarship that will help people that couldn't afford otherwise to come.
What does it mean to you to have a scholarship in your name?
Well, I think it's a great privilege, and I feel honoured. At the same time, well, I feel, to be honest,
humbled, I suppose.
Yes, it is. Humbled. Yeah, that is it. So I'm just hoping that the money will be there, that the scholarship will be able to be continued.
And did you develop balance in your own life? I thought I might as well ask you that, because I think I am a huge believer in that this ought to be discussed a lot more, because it's hard, very hard to do. But do you think you did?
Well, Geraldine, there are times when I have to say to myself, for me now, it's getting the space in my life that I need to have the time to reflect.
All nuns say that.
Yes, yeah.
It's not a quiet life that you're up for, is it?
I went last weekend, I attended a seminar on meditation, contemplation and the environment. But it made me sort of, I must admit, I rather grudgingly gave up the last weekend of holidays to it. But it was so enriching that I was delighted that I had gone.
Do you meditate?
I did meditate.
You do?
I do, every morning.
Every morning, do you?
Yes, yes.
So how long?
For an hour.
Do you?
Yeah. Well, that's part of it.
Very impressive.
You know, when we talk about contemplation, I mean, our congregation is to be wholly contemplative, wholly apostolic. It's not just for yourself, it's to be able to reach out to people. I read a verse, but I don't think I'll remember it about, I can't say it, but anyhow, the more you know about people, the closer they bring you to God, really.
Yeah, do you, like, just before we go on to your background, you know, that statement, I think, in a way, to be perfectly honest, as you get older, you can find that harder sometimes to really abide by. It sounds wonderful, but sometimes it can be a bit of a test, you know, the business of being exposed, throwing yourself into the life of other people. Do you agree?
I do agree, but I think that is the essence of my vocation, the contemplation in order
to free you to do.
Go out to others. And if your life's not based on that, for me, as a religious of the Sacred Heart, it doesn't have much meaning.
Well, I do hope that a significant amount of the filthy lucre required for this scholarship is raised tonight, Mary.
Thank you, Geraldine.
I really do. Let's go a little bit back to you, because you were raised in Winton, in central West Queensland, I'm told. You had 6 siblings, 5 older brothers and a younger sister, so it was a big, robust Queensland family, wasn't it?
And I used to say, no one can give you an education like your brothers.
Said with gritted teeth.
Yeah, but I was blessed in my family.
Were you?
Really blessed. My mother, who died aged 55, too young, but she was just a remarkable woman. She was gentle but strong, and her love reached out to all sorts of people. You know, in the town, people just looked to her, and they used to come to her to talk to her, and she was just...
How old were you when she died?
I was 21.
Very tough. You must have missed her a lot.
Indeed.
You were a very good horse rider, someone tells me.
Well, I loved riding. I wasn't a show rider.
You didn't compete, or
No. Behind a mob of sheep or something.
Did you out in the farm, were you?
Or chasing the wanners. Every holidays, we lived in the town, but every holidays we went up on a property, friends. So that's where I learned to ride and to do all those kinds of things. I love that.
Do you go back much to the Central Room?
No. I went 2 years ago, I think it was. They had a dinner, a pioneers dinner.
A bit long range?
At Winton.
Winton.
And I was invited to go with all expenses paid, so I went, and that was the only time. Oh, well, no, I've been once before because we had 2 sisters that lived in Blackwall.
Right.
They were both retired, and the Bishop of Rockhampton wanted some sisters to go. So these 2 went, and they were just part of the town. And I went to visit them, and one of them who was there had been in Winton with me for some time. And so we got on the bus and we went to Winton. I came from a very Catholic family, but I remember as a child, I was about 11 perhaps. Well, I was on a horse. I was the only person around for miles. And I had this extraordinary sense of God, which may have lasted just a few minutes, but it remained with me. And
A good sense?
oh, very good sense. A very sort of closeness. It might have lasted a few seconds only, but it remained. And I can still go back to where I was and think about it.
Moment of grace.
It was.
And I wonder how much it was mediated by the sound of you. The natural world around you must have played a big role, and this beautiful animal.
Yeah.
We don't talk enough about that in the church, I don't think.
I often wondered whether I had indigenous blood in me. I had such a connection with the land. And I mean, around Winton it wasn't beautiful, but beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That land, I could go back there tomorrow, it would still mean a great deal to me.
So when you went down to Brisbane, to Stewart Home, where I've done various spiritualities, or women in spirituality nights, it'd take you 3 days on the train to get to and from home.
3 nights. 2 full nights, and the best part of the 3rd night.
So you were wrenched out of this place that you knew so well and loved.
Well, you couldn't go to boarding. There was only primary school where I went to primary school, the Sisters of Mercy. They ran the primary school, I was there. And I had to go to boarding school. I could have gone to Rockhampton, I could have gone to Townsville. But my parents said, well, if you have to go to boarding school, go to Brisbane. Well, I was to have gone to the Ursuline College in Armidale. But then my parents used to go down to Sydney every year, and on the way back they stopped to visit a friend, a daughter of friends at Stewart Home. And they were impressed by the nuns and by the school, so that's where I ended up.
Now, you obviously, that was how many years, by the way, did you do that?
Well, 4 years, and then in my 5th year, the planes came back.
Oh, I see.
So you could go by plane, but that took 6 hours, because it used to stop at every...
The Milgram. Now, I'm told that you led a very active social life in the district, and even though you don't want us to go there, I'm told that there was a particularly keen young man who was keen to marry you. Yes.
He was slightly older than me,
Yes.
but I knew. that he was waiting for me. So, but in the end, I had to write to him to say sorry.
Because?
Because I'm going to enter.
So the sisters took precedence over this.
Well, my vocation did. It was a response of love. You asked me, did I have an experience? Well, after I left school, I was back at school, sort of helping out, and I again just had this extraordinary experience of God's love. And the only response that I could make to that was to give my life to love. So that was the end.
So you didn't feel like it was quite clear to you, was it? There wasn't a massive wrestling with this?
Not at that stage, no.
Not at that stage, but later?
No, when I remember when I was at school, one of the nuns, they didn't talk to us, they didn't push us into vocation, but one of the nuns said to me one day, have you ever thought about being a nun? And I said, oh, no. And then when I was a bit later, a bit older, sort of came and I thought, oh, no, I don't want that. But this was so, well, it was so strong that I just had to respond.
So you had to tell this young man that youngish man, that he was going to miss out. And have you maintained friendship with him?
Yeah, he died later, but he came to see me in the novitiate. And I can still remember, it's funny, isn't it? He brought a big box of chocolates.
He knew what he was missing out on quite clearly. So
I think he saw that I was settled there, more or less. That was it. He never married.
He never married?
Sorry. Now, sorry, Muffy, I feel a little bit hesitant about talking about myself.
You've done very well. I didn't think we'd get that far. So in 1946, at almost 19, you entered the Sacre Coeur order. You gained a teaching certificate at Rose Bay, a Victorian teacher certificate, which enabled you to teach in both Victoria as well as New South Wales. And you then, I suppose, really began your career of maturing in the faith. You taught at the Stewart Home. You returned to Rose Bay. I'm going to go through this because I want to get to some of your attitudes in the 5 minutes or so we've got left, 5 minutes, to the current church. So I suppose in that next, you went on and did further education, didn't you? You did your Masters of Education. So you continued that sense of educating yourself and growing and being curious. What for you are the highlights when you look back? Were there sort of key tipping points that you can see moved you to another stage?
Well, the first thing was when I came to Sydney University. I think that I came as a nun to Sydney University, here as a student nun. That really did start me thinking seriously about my faith, many things. And then I think when I was in Duchesne, I got a fellowship to go to the States, and I was doing research, but I was blessed in meeting people and having access to some of our nuns over there who were very forward-thinking, and that was a very important time for me there. And I think we're blessed in our congregation that we're encouraged to read, that we have access to good stuffs, and I continue to read. And I think I'm a bit of a rebel at heart, and so that too much Irish in me. Well, when it comes to the church, I am, I'm afraid.
Okay, we'll just come back to that in a moment. You were very ready to take on, and I'm intrigued as to where you think you got this from, to principalships of Duchesne, for instance, and the order. Now, did you read, like a lot of women wonder about this, as you well know, will someone find me out, am I really called to do this, am I getting above myself? Did that trouble you?
Well, certainly when I had that position in Rome, I used to find myself in places and I used to think, what on earth am I doing here?
This is when you were with the order,
yeah.
And you go all around and meet.
Yeah. I used to look, Geraldine, in those days we were told to do things. And unless you had a very, very strong reason, you went. And I think I learned that, I did things that I thought I was just not capable of doing. Been in that situation many times. But I think I learned just to go in and do what I could.
And you didn't have a fear of failure?
No, I didn't. Oh, well, you faced failure on many occasions, but no, I don't think I was afraid of it.
No, by the sound of it, you weren't. While you were at Duchesne, you joined a group teaching in the prison at Boggo Road. Now, that's certainly different in your CV, that aspect of your life. What was that like?
Look, I found that, what should I say? It was a very revealing, if that's the word. You'd read about murders in the paper. You'd go to the prison and you'd find yourself sitting down with one of them. So I learned to, I think, not to judge people quickly. And if I've got a minute, I think I've had the strongest example of what love is really about. There was a young man there, and I'd read or heard about what he was involved in, some murder, and I used to teach English, and they would write something, and some of them would write things, I think, to sort of had set my hair on edge.
Oh,
and I used to just correct the punctuation and the spelling and give it to
Yes.
But I got to know this young man, and he told me that, he ran away from home, lived with his grandmother, they'd drink methylated spirits, anything. But he was really trying to improve himself. And he was doing a course in master baking, and he really wanted to write. Anyhow, he married, and he had a little daughter who meant a lot to him. But his wife eventually left him and married. And the man she married wanted to adopt this child. And Prisoner's Aid came to me and asked me would I persuade him
to release the child.
And I said, no, I couldn't do that. I said, I'll talk to him. And I did talk to him, and he said, she's all I've got. But the next week I went back, and he said, I've been thinking, if that child has to carry my name through life, that's a big disadvantage. And this is the thing. But if I really loved her, I would give her up. And he did. What a lesson of love, eh?
Yes. Did it all work out?
Yes, well, unfortunately, after I left Brisbane, I lost touch with him. And I never knew what happened to him.
Well, I hope that's a wonderful story of putting the child first. I'm just hopping through. You went to Oxford to do further research as a student at Blackfriars College, and your time in Rome, you had a master's. Tell me your first master's subject.
In history. That was the Benedictines, why they failed to, the English Benedictine priests, why they failed to establish themselves out here.
And then once you were in Rome, my time in Rome influenced me to change the topic of my research to the development of papal authority in the church. What a little topic. So I'm going to ask you about that now. Because it would seem that, reading the tea leaves, our Pope Francis is trying to specifically devolve authority.
The authority, like in France particularly, it was the authority judicial or was it spiritual? And we came out on the side in the sense that it was judicial. It had that power. And it interested me, the whole historical development of it. And that's what I wanted to do.
Do you think now, if he is successful, will we get a different looking, feeling church?
I feel so. I feel so because the Pope wants to take away that sort of sense. Even Hans Kuhn is asking him to look again at papal infallibility.
Is he?
So whether Francis will do that is not to. But I think the Pope is really trying to put back power, in a sense, to the local level, where people, to the bishops who know their diocese, and he's giving people more of a chance to be heard. Like, I mean, theologians now that were condemned before, they'll get a chance to be able to speak, to be heard, and won't be condemned.
Do you think the laity is ready for what would be asked of them?
Well, I belong to a couple of groups, and perhaps they're a bit exceptional, I don't know, but they're very much, I think the laity are much better educated now, and I think are really ready to enter in more into the real life of the church.
Now I'm going to ask you finally, because I'm just very conscious of the time, and I know everybody wants to chat and probably talk to you. If you had, I often say this, and I did this at the conference last week with the meditation conference on the Saturday, if you had one lever of power to pull to improve matters, so I don't want a diagnosis, I want what you do, what would you do if you were trying to serve the church well at the moment? What would you actually do with all your experience and your knowledge of people and your leadership capacities, which I think are very considerable?
Well, off the top of my head, I think I would treat each person with real respect. And I think, well, I would love those people, not in an emotional way, but I would reach out to people and believe in people, that they have the power to do that. And I think I often think of leadership, you can be out on the white horse leading people, or you can be in the middle of the circle. And that's where I want to be.
That Wilfred Bion, who's that English psychoanalyst, says the great leaders are those who develop leadership in others, which is what I think that you've done. And I just wanted to finish with a wonderful, the Joseph Campbell, the Catholic writer, he believes, and there's a great quote here, that people are not so much looking for the meaning of life as such, but for the experience of being more abundantly alive. Eternity has little to do with the hereafter. He wrote, "This is it. If you don't get it here, you won't get it anywhere." The experience of eternity right here and right now is the function of life. Heaven's not the place to have the experience. Here's the place to have the experience. I take it that's exactly what you would think.
I think so. I do. I'm reading a bit at the moment. There's a wonderful Franciscan nun, an American, who's in a university with religion and science. And she's writing a lot on evolution and the impact that has on our theology and everything else. So that's where I am at the moment.
So that's the next stage of life. And when people, because I know there have been people here who've had spiritual direction from you for 20 years, and which I said, well, lucky you. What do you think people are searching for? What is it that the modern Catholic is searching for?
I think it's too easy to say a meaning in life, but I think they want to see that their life does have real meaning, not only for themselves, but for the world, if that's not too fast to think. And I think that we've just got to know that we're part of the world. I think one of the things that I've been, a connection to nature, to animals. If I have to kill a cockroach now, I apologise.
No need to take that. No, I know what you mean though. And that's living life with intensity. Look, ladies and gentlemen, I could go on, but I don't want to be between you and your dinner, and or you and your checkbook, frankly. So I think we've been very blessed. I consider it a real privilege to have had just even a nodding knowledge with Mary over these years. I've felt very supported in ways that she may not quite realise. So I was honoured to conduct this Q&A with you, and I'm thrilled there's going to be a scholarship in your name, and I urge you all to thank Mary Shanahan in the usual way.
say one thing more. I learn a lot from listening to Geraldine on Saturday mornings and Saturday Morning Extra. And if you ever want to listen to a very good radio program,
Well, before you go, Geraldine, what a treasured tete-a-tete. Thank you very much. Your gentle line of questioning has given us a lot of precious moments, many of which we didn't know about Shan, and perhaps which you didn't necessarily want to tell us in some parts. But I think it's that alchemy